when you give somebody like Trump who has that egomaniacal personality and then tell him that, look, here's a president, Jackson did this, and he goes for it. So he's become this 19th century expansionist and a 19th century tariff monger. And it's shocking some conservatives in the Republican Party.
So let's get to some more questions. And one of them you just kind of alluded to, the powers that were already there in the abstract. To what extent Trump is using, abusing, overusing them, and what is he like creating out of whole cloth by saying we have an emergency because we're at war with a Venezuelan gang, therefore I can do what FDR did, which was intern the Japanese or whatever his equivalent of this is. Some of this seems to be stretching the abstract into the real, and some of it seems to be making things up out of whole cloth. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. And much of it just winging it. President Trump knew nothing about history in his first term. He knew a lot about real estate. It's not a derogatory comment I'm trying to log. He just knew nothing about American history. But incrementally himself, he started hearing about the way, what the Monroe Doctrine is. And when you simplify it, you think it's you control the whole hemisphere. Nobody's allowed to come in. Or William McKinley on tariffs, which he got on that hobby horse. And James K. Polk is ranked pretty high because he grabbed land from Mexico. And in that spirit, Andrew Jackson has become the all seasons presidential hero of Donald Trump, first term and second.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I am co-founder of Jews United for Democracy and Justice, as well as the America at a Crossroads weekly virtual town hall series. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and participate in our weekly live streams. You can also connect directly with our guests live on Zoom. Head over to JewsUnitedForDemocracy.org. Thanks for watching.
Jackson always had that word populist against the elites. That's what Trump started marketing himself as. And people may forget or but not be aware, in 1824, Jackson lost an election and insisted he didn't. And he screamed bloody murder and said, "Foul, I won, I won. I've been stolen from me, corrupt bargains going on." And he ran again in 1828 and won. And the amount of hubris Andrew Jackson displayed is Trump-esque, with the particularly against the banking system and the monetary system. But in a famous case, Worcester versus Georgia, Supreme Court case, with Supreme Court Justice John Marshall overseeing it, the Supreme Court said that Jackson had no rights to do the Trail of Tears or Indian removal, that these were ancestral native lands and it was illegal to boot people off of their property. That was the Supreme Court, and he defied it, Jackson, and said, let him enforce it.
Yeah. John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it, which sounds very Trumpian.
It is. And
Um,
so when you're, and not just President Trump, but this circle of lawyers around them all there, when you give somebody like Trump who has that egomaniacal personality and then tell him that, look, here's a president, Jackson did this, and he goes for it. But your original point, Pat's the one of the ones that the media is not talking about, but keep your eye on it, is using that term national security. People know the Venezuelan gang is not a war, it's not Pearl Harbor or Hitler declaring war on us. But Trump's wandering into that, trying to see what are my
he
war
just used it for movies, right? Foreign movies are a national security threat.
all across the board. And he may go into a place like Panama Canal if the cargo ships, his polls are bad, the tariffs not kicking in that he wanted, as a bold statement. We're securing the Panama Canal, even though it's not, it's not American territory, but we're there to secure it. And You hear that with Greenland. We're going to take it no matter what from Denmark because we need it for national security. So he's become this 19th century expansionist and a 19th century tariff monger. And it's shocking some conservatives in the Republican Party. The tech world of Silicon Valley or the Musketeers and the like, they're worried about the Wild West of they want an unregulated future, and Trump's providing that. But many Fortune 500 companies do not like this kind of roller coaster stock market, a lack of coherency going on. And so he's starting to rub Wall Street the wrong way, Trump, and he's going to have to watch that side of his back because they were kind of with a nod and a wink thinking, Trump's kind of offbeat and kooky, but we got through the first term. He got 3 Supreme Court justices in. Nobody would believe he would do this sort of calling the Canada the 51st state and jacking tariffs up like he did to China because it creates global economic insecurity.
Next time we have, as you see on the screen, Andrew Weissman talking with Warren Olney. After that, David Axelrod with Madeline Brand. A big lineup of big hitters all through the summer. So you can come back here and we can keep up with us and with the doings and changes that are going on in Washington, D.C. and around the world. I'm Pat Morrison. We sure appreciate you joining us this evening.